Let's begin with NBC News political director Chuck Todd and the Politico's Roger Simon. Gentlemen, thank you. Let's take a look at the newest polls. The Washington Post ABC News poll came out this morning with a 10-point lead for John McCain nationwide, which helps push the pollster.com average of all polls up to an 8-point Obama lead. Your take on that, Chuck? We're looking at the map there of the polling.
It does seem a little bit wider than what either of the campaigns would say it is, but that's about where the race has been. Apparently, there's always been a bump for Obama right after the debates, and then there's always this settling down. That's what we saw the last three debates, the two presidentials and the one vice presidential. So the question is this time for McCain, can he get through a debate without seeing Obama's lead expand again? You know, if the assumption is this will close a little bit over the next 48 hours, get down to 5, 6, 7, which is about where it had been before each of the last two debates, can he stop it from growing again? And if he does, then, and it starts shrinking again to 3, 4, or 5, well, suddenly at 3, 4, or 5, that's a winnable race.
You know, it seems to me, Roger, that this explains why Barack Obama is actually paying for 30 minutes of primetime television time later in the campaign, because he knows that he has to regularly come on television in prime time. It seems to me to show that he's better than the PR about him, better than the word of mouth the opposition's putting out about him.
Well, also he's showing that he is a serious candidate, a presidential candidate, and that he can afford the dough. I mean, he's saying, look, I can afford 30 minutes. It's nothing to me. $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 million. Can John McCain afford the dough? Probably not. I mean, and it's calm, it's cool, it's collected. It's him facing America, presumably from a comfortable setting, talking about issues instead of just talking about himself, which was the biggest difference today between McCain's speech and Obama's speech.
Tell me about that.
Well, McCain gave a speech, and it wasn't bad, but he had some good lines. He said, I've been fighting for this country since I was 17 years old, and I have the scars to prove it. He said, I'm a fighter who puts all his cards on the table. He said, I know what fear feels like. I know what hopelessness feels like. There are a lot of I's in that speech. It was about him. He talked about some economics, but it was mostly about him. Barack Obama talked about jobs. He talked about a rescue plan.
Right.
He talked about having the IRS mail out tax cut checks early, about stop taxing unemployment benefits. It was all about the people, the middle class, people struggling to make it. It was a marked difference in the two speeches.
Well, maybe people are more interested in their own personal stories, their economic stories now than they are in the narratives of either candidate. Let's take a look at Senator John McCain in Virginia along those lines.
We cannot spend the next 4 years, as we have spent much of the last 8, waiting for our luck to change. The hour is late. Our troubles are getting worse. Our enemies watch. We have to act immediately. We have to change direction now, and we have to fight.
Okay, let's look at Barack Obama today in Toledo.
His campaign actually said, and I quote, if we keep talking about the economy, we're going to lose. That's what he said, Wade. Well, Senator McCain may be worried about losing an election, but I'm worried about you losing your jobs. I'm worried about you losing your homes. I'm worried about you losing your life savings. You can't afford 4 more years of the failed economic theories that say we should give more and more to millionaires and billionaires and hope that prosperity trickles down on everybody else. We've seen where that's led us, and we are not going back. It is time to turn the page.
It seems to me, Chuck Todd, you can tell where the battlegrounds are because that's where the candidates are going. I saw Barack Obama all Saturday morning in Philadelphia. Then I saw Biden in Scranton on Sunday, and I'm looking there. He's in Ohio, Virginia. These are the states. How are they moving right now on your map?
Well, let's take a look. Here's where we were last week. And I want to circle 2 states for you to watch when I change it this week. Missouri and West Virginia. And this will tell you everything you need to know about the economy. Missouri, we've moved to toss-up, as you can see. And more importantly, West Virginia has moved from a likely solid McCain state to a lean McCain state. And take a look at West Virginia, Chris. Surrounded by battleground states. Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Well, what does that mean? It means all of the media markets that Obama's been buying there's about 60% of them bleed into, in these 3 states, they bleed into West Virginia.
Right.
The economy's hit West Virginia hard, just like it's hit a lot of these northern tier states, these Rust Belt states. And we're starting to see movement in Obama's direction. Another state, frankly, that I want to see some polling data in, and I guarantee you there's probably movement there toward Obama, is Arkansas. And that's, where you see these states that have Democratic tendencies in the state that maybe had some racial resistance, but as the economy has just piled on this race, it has trumped race in this campaign, and that's why you're seeing movement in West Virginia, movement in Ohio, in the U part of Ohio, that's in Obama's direction, movement in Pennsylvania, where you're seeing his lead grow, particularly in some of those rural parts. And as I talked to one Republican, if you're seeing growth in those parts in Pennsylvania, well, there's no doubt there's going to be shifts in West Virginia.
Well, let me go to Roger with this. But first, Roger, I want to look at these numbers. Here's more from the ABC Washington Post poll out today. Barack Obama's favorable number is up to 64% now. He's 6 points up from a month ago. And by the way, he's about 2-1, 64 to 33, positive over negative. Meanwhile, John McCain's numbers are going bad. You can see them. His favorables are down by 7 points. His unfavorables are up by 9. Something he's doing out there, whether in the debates or in his advertising or on the stump, is bothering people. He's not as likable as he was a couple weeks ago.
That's true, and he's not as likable as he was 8 years ago. I mean, he used to be. Why did we like him? Why did he do so well 8 years ago? He was authentic, he was a maverick, and he was not excessively partisan. Not that long ago, he and Arnold Schwarzenegger were talking about the new era of post-partisanship in America. Well, that's not the John McCain we've seen in the last few weeks or the last few months. And the American people don't think it's a very likable guy. And when you get right down to it, not only is the economy trumping everything right now, including race, but it's also trumping. People also want a candidate they can like and trust. And when you go down deeper into the poll, you find out that, on the economy, not only do a majority of the people think it's the #1 issue, but Barack Obama wins among economy voters 62 to 33. I mean, that is a number that leaps from the page. How does John McCain make up a 62-33 margin on the economy? Even though the stock market had wonderfully a terrific day today, it's still going to be an issue on November 5th. How does he make up that ground in 3 weeks?
Well, Chuck, look at these numbers here. Voters think McCain has spent more time attacking than addressing issues. Of course, he is attacking, and we watched the ad campaign. But to challenge something we just said, both of us there, and I think we all agree on, the conventional wisdom is that John McCain was more winsome 8 years ago, but he lost. Are we learning now, like Nixon lost in 60, came back, broke bad in 68, but won? I mean, it's almost like that scene in Lawrence of Arabia, the great film, where the guy, he's a nice guy in the first half of the movie and turns bloodthirsty at the end and wins in the end. Is bloodthirsty bad or good or what? What are we learning here?
I do want a word of warning on McCain's favorable ratings. We're seeing a spike in the negativity for him among voters that were already with Obama, among African Americans, among Hispanics, where he was already doing poorly. So instead of getting, say, a 20% favorable rating from voters who weren't going to vote for him anyway, he's now getting like a 2% favorable rating. And that's accounting for some of the spike. There's not as much movement on the negative side among white voters. So just keep that in mind, and so it might
But that's
temper.
a 9-point hike, though, in unfavorable. How'd you figure?
Well, that's the thing. It moves. If you move it, the same thing happened to Hillary Clinton. When the minority vote really got angry at the Clintons, it moved in one direction so badly against Clinton that it did affect the overall fave-unfave number. I don't want to get into the whole weighting things and this or that, but just among white voters, McCain's number hasn't gotten that bad, and it hasn't moved as much as it has among minority voters who are really upset, more upset about the tone of this, and among some Democratic voters who used to give McCain a favorable rating. So I just a word of caution on some of those negatives.
I think, Chuck Todd, thank you very much. Roger Simon, thank you.